when you see channels get banned for saying unpopular things, you have to ask yourself, is what was said true? Is it the truth that's being censored? Or is it really lies and disinformation? It seems like there is an agenda to curate what you receive in your consciousness through censorship, to allow only for that which agrees with the worldview of the powerful. A channel like this does not try to countervail that information. Meaning this channel, the one you're listening to right now, is not trying to countervail that information with other information that contradicts it. It is, however, pointing you to a consideration of everything that appears in awareness and a questioning of it, to dismantle all of the programming, all of it, in a way that reveals the non-self nature of content, of all content. And in that is realized the exogenous nature of the impressions in consciousness called mind. So the programming itself need not be countervailed through other information that contradicts the malignant programming that misappropriates energy within you into fearful things, to put you into a state of helplessness. So instead of just redirecting opinions to truthful ones, which has merit, but is not possible due to censorship, it is, however, still possible to put out information that actually exposes all programming, and in doing so reveals the malicious intentions behind our programmed self-hatred. If you look at an animal, like let's say a deer, for example, it has an energetic budget. And because it doesn't have a conceptual self to respond to energetically, that conceptual self doesn't exist to have a share of the energetic budget. The animal responds only to what is put forth in the world, like what appears in the phenomenal world, which is a function of, for lack of a better way to put it, divine will. That's what the animal heeds in terms of its energetic life. If it didn't, it would die or it wouldn't be able to pass on its genes, because it wouldn't be, it takes all of its energy to survive, because it has no technology to leverage itself, to have an energetic surplus. It has to devote everything to feeding the body and reproducing it and protecting it from predators. We, on the other hand, have the ability to misappropriate our energetic budget. And the hole in the system is the mind, the conceptual self, relational thinking. So we, in order to right-size the energy consumption, have to get into a place where we regard everything as just information, non-relational information. It appears in awareness, but to what does it relate is the question. Now, content, as in thoughts, clearly point to something that you are and represent some implication for that which in unconsciousness one can take themselves to be, the form and the thoughts and the energy. And so concepts can point to implications for those things that inspire the using of energy towards the mental running of a scenario that triggers the emotions and taps into the energy body, and colors it. And that process, when repeated, and it can be repeated, as many times as the mind likes, right? See, this is the problem. This is the hole in the game, is that your energy is a function of finite things, like the amount of energy that your body can take in through food and produce. But the mind is an infinite thing. So you have a finite energy source, like your body is essentially this rocket booster, or this generator that projects the world into awareness, and it's being tapped into by something that is unlimited. It has an inexhaustible supply of missiles, so to speak. It can just keep putting thoughts in front of you that tap your energy, and that's what we see in people who are really dysregulated. It's what's going on in between their ears. Like when you see a person who's ideologically possessed, whatever the cause may be, the condition is universal. The program that's running can be any worldview, but the condition of ideological possession is one thing. So it's like one fruit that appears on different trees. It's a dysregulation of the energy body. Like all these things that are appearing in awareness for, say, a sage. All sages, they're not scholars. Okay, a sage is not a scholar per se. A sage is somebody who has an appropriate relationship with content, one that doesn't energetically dysregulate them in terms of both depletion and vibration. So that they all share. So a sage would not be subject to any ideological possession because they're not moved by the infinite tapestry of content that flows by in awareness. There's an impersonal viewing of it by virtue of there being a lack of identification with any subject to which those things purport to relate. So there's no triggering. They're completely untriggerable. And as such, their energy is not depleted by pointless rumination, and it's not downward modulated through the running of scenarios in mind. And that's the object of spiritual practice. So a channel like this is not going to point to the specific individuals or groups who are trying to use propaganda to dysregulate you energetically in a way that makes you manipulable, like to cultivate allegiances in you that can be used to then trigger you later by presenting content that somehow threatens that to which you have a cultivated allegiance. Okay, so I'm not like pointing out anybody specific or anything like that, but what I am pointing to is the destruction of the conditioning that is implanted through these various technologies, and in a curated way that we obviously know that there's a bias towards or away from anything that countervails this thing that I've referred to as the narrative. Essentially, a way, the narrative is a way to dysregulate you, to get you to act against your own self-interests, and also to energetically dysregulate you for the purposes of manipulation. And the only way that you can really defeat that is by having an appropriate relationship with content. And that's the point of spiritual practice.